Moving on to defensive actions, and obviously they are tackles, interceptions, pressures, the like, basically anything that you'd categorize a defender to do primarily. So, I mean, I think sometimes we see with defensive stats, they are the ones which perhaps a duty of care should be used to a greater degree, because defensive metrics are nuanced in the sense that they need to be possession adjusted.
Absolutely.
Would you be able to give us a brief explainer on what possession adjusted metrics are, and why they're important, or rather why possession adjusting to tackles or interceptions is important?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I can try, but you're right that it absolutely. Again, it's probably the one where there is that duty of care the most. You see it a lot on Twitter with X person has made 100 interceptions in the game, and you just think, okay, well, there's a reason why there, and essentially it's important to possession adjust the metrics, because you can't perform a defensive action if you don't have the ball. And it really is quite as simple as that, and that you need to have the opportunity to defend to actually make that defensive action. So, yeah, one player might make far more interceptions than another, but you need to account for the fact that they've had more opportunity to do so. So, I mean, the example that I always go to, and you won't be happy to hear me say this, is that you compare Newcastle and Manchester City, in that someone who does a lot of defensive actions isn't necessarily the better player. So, yeah, you might, you look at someone like Ruben Diaz, that it's probably actually the absence of his defensive actions that make him such a great player. So if you were to do it based purely on his numbers, you'd maybe say that he wasn't such a great player. But yeah, you compare the fact that Man City completely dominate the ball and they barely give up possession, versus maybe a passive team like Newcastle, where the defenders are going to make a lot more defensive actions, then it's incomparable. So a way that you can combat this, and it's really neatly done by Tom Worville at The Athletic. A little plug there was that he does it in a really neat way, is that he adjusts it by looking at the number of times that a player makes those actions for every 1,000 touches that an opponent makes when they're on the field of play. So a really kind of equal proxy to go from, where all players, to some extent, as best we can, kind of have an equal opportunity to defend, and say when they are out of possession, then how much do they engage in these defensive actions. So that's, I guess, why it's important, and what we can do at least to try and level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, I think leveling the playing field is probably a good way of putting it finally there, because I think if you're out of possession a lot, then you're going to be doing a lot of defending, and by default you're going to probably register more